This is the 25th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. In 1995, after the bombing, Oklahomans rushed in to provide whatever support they could, building neighborhood triage centers, providing food to fire and rescue crews, and extending a hand to those who were suffering. These acts of kindness gave us comfort and a sense of community during a very tough time. This became known as the Oklahoma Standard. As our way of honoring these acts of kindness, the Oklahoma City Dodgers Baseball Foundation will feature 25 people or organizations that exemplify the spirit of the Oklahoma Standard today. Our goal is to amplify their good works and inspire others. As Oklahomans adjust to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are encouraged and inspired by our neighbors doing good works.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another example of the Oklahoma Standard. I'm really excited. I say that every week, but I really am. It's such a pleasure to tell these stories. With me today is my friend Jamie. Jamie, can you say hi to everybody at home?
Hello, everybody at home.
Well, Jamie has a special project that he's been working on for some time, and you know, when we started this project pre-pandemic, I knew that this was something that we wanted to share with all of you. And so we had connected, and Jamie had offered to come and sit with me and talk about this. And then the pandemic hit. 2020 has been a year. The pandemic hit, and then we had a lot of racial injustice. And I really thought that we needed to pause this particular story until it made more sense. And I think that time is now. I think y'all are ready for it. So Jamie, tell us about Coffee with Fosh. Did I say it right?
Well, Coffee with Fosh.
Fosh. See, I did it again.
I'm extrovert's not, that's an overstretch, but I'm very friendly, very outgoing. I just kind of hit a point in my life for a couple of years where I became a little more introverted. And I basically just started trying to just meet people that I didn't know, and particularly try to find people that weren't like me, just to get to know some new people. And that's all it was. And I got into about 4 or 5 of those. And I thought, well, it would be interesting to, keep track of what they are, because I always wrote a little bio or blurb or whatever you'd like to call it to go with the conversation. I was just posting that on my own personal social media with their permission, of course. And but I wanted to have a way to, I guess, collate it. So I thought, well, Instagram, duh. So put that together, and I thought, well, it's so easy to connect Facebook to Instagram. And then I thought, well, I can call it something. So Coffee with Fosh. My last name is Foshy. People call me Fosh for short. And once I put it up, I started getting likes for that. And what people were finding was that they were really enjoying the stories about other people, because it may say Coffee with Fosh, but the intent is to put the story out of the person with whom I'm speaking. So that's really kind of how things got started.
Well, and how many folks have you interviewed up to this point?
I can't give you an exact count, but I'll be within 2 or 3, but it would be a little over 70 at this point. I began this in March of 2019.
Wow, and that's taking some time off through the pandemic, and making sure that you and your family and your guests are safe. So I appreciate you doing that, because I know how much you enjoy meeting new people, and for you to pause, it must have been a tough decision. But I hear you're going to mix it up a little bit, and maybe start doing some virtually.
Right. I actually started back up full time, if you will. I have a full-time job about a month ago, and I've done 3 or 4 very recently. A face-to-face situation, and the shop at which we met. Great social distancing. They were doing their job. We were in great shape, but the numbers in Lawton have not looked good, the last few days. And, I actually have on a page right now that I'm not going to do anymore unless it's via a Zoom or something like this. But my wife and I talked this morning. We're going to kind of do a mix of that, just depending on what the circumstances are. But I just felt it was important. And to be honest, for me, I need that. I have some personal situations where I need something really positive in my life going on, and meeting with people and getting to know their stories and being able to share them and know that people that are reading about these other folks are encouraged by that. That's important to me.
So you talked about it a little bit, and you specifically did not search out people who were like you. You looked, you just let people come to you, and you've interviewed about 70, and they've been from different areas across the state and beyond, correct?
Yeah, well, I can't say beyond the state yet. I actually had a Zoom set up with a gentleman in New York last week. We had to change that, but he had just driven through Lawton, was at Viridian Coffee and saw a poster, and he was like, "I really want to do that." So we're going to schedule that. But yeah, I've had people from really the region around Lawton would be a good way to describe it. And it's racially diverse, economically diverse, educationally diverse, politically diverse, religiously diverse. I'm a devout Christian. I've talked to atheists. I've talked to agnostics. It's just been across the board. Pick the category.
What is the biggest surprise that you've learned through this project?
The commonality that I find with every single one with whom I visit. There's one in particular that comes across. There was a retired Marine Corps captain that actually reached out to me, and to say that we are on opposite ends of the fence. And I don't just mean politically, but just I'm a very, very liberal person. He's the more conservative person. And his experience was that the older we get, the more conservative we get, which has been the case for him. For me, it's just been the opposite. I've always been a very conservative person and have moved to be a more liberal person. So he said, I've got to talk to this guy. And we found we had so much in common, and whether it was politics, religion, again, pick your category. But I find that with everybody. And even, there's some people that, we're just, hey, great, we're probably going to end up being friends. Those conversations are nice too, but the most enjoyable ones are the ones where I find those differences. And then we find that middle ground where people can talk and listen. And okay, I can see a little better where you come from and what you're thinking, and I can see better where they come from and what they're thinking.
And leading by example, an example of the Oklahoma Standard, you're getting people together that don't on paper look like they see eye to eye, and finding all those things they have in common. And that brings your conversations, I would think, to a much deeper place. Do you feel that way?
It does, and it's amazing. Sometimes it's really not a conversation. Sometimes I'm just since it was coffee with Fosh, I've got my coffee with me.
That's okay, me too.
Sometimes it's me just, I was one in particular, I pretty much just sit there the entire hour, and I limit it to an hour, and with a rare exception. And the lady, it was a lady, and she told me, she said, I'm just not good at this, but I want to get outside of my comfort zone, and you're probably going to have to carry the conversation. And I said, that's fine. Let's just meet and see what happens. We talked for an hour. I think the reason she's so tiny, she's not agoraphobic, but close to that. And to get out and do that with something else, she felt the need. She needed to talk. Basically, what she needed to do was just vent. And even in those kinds of conversations, I just find there's a lot of commonality with that. I am anything but enjoy staying in the house all the time. That's what she likes to do. But we still found some things that made it work.
So what I'm hearing is that people really have a need to tell their story, and they also want to hear yours. And that must be kind of fun to tell your story as well sometimes, right?
It is, because often they really don't learn anything about me. I have a friend of mine that she always makes the comment that you're the kind of guy that after you've visited with someone, they feel like, wow, I really know Jamie. And then when they think about it, they really don't know a whole lot. But with the ones that have taken the time to ask my story as well, that's been fun. enjoy that. In fact, I have a young lady here in town that's actually going to do a coffee with Fosh with me. We just did one with her, and I made the request. I said, "This is something I've thought about," and I said, "I want you to have. It'll be a coffee with Brandy, is what it will be, and she will do a write up about me to post, just to have that
Very
out there."
cool.
But yeah, it's nice to be able to tell some of my struggles. I've got a form of cancer that we're dealing with, and it's nice when people ask, about that and how I'm doing, and want to know about family. And we have a major blend in our family, and it's fun to get to tell people about that.
Yeah, we were talking earlier before we started recording that you have a very blended family, and your wife Lisa, and you've got 3 beautiful daughters and sons. And so do you want to talk about them just a little bit and kind of brag on them?
Absolutely. We have some family in Portland, Oregon, which is kind of a hotbed of things right now, and that's my I don't like to use the word stepson, but that's my stepson and his wife and her grandchild live there. And my son and his wife and kids live in Fort Belvoir in Maryland. He's in the Navy. Been working in a COVID ward, so that's been a little scary for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then about a little over 5 years ago, we took in 3 girls out of the DHS system, and they're Chinese. And born in America, but they were raised in Chinese culture, and they've been very successful. We took them in their late teenage years. 2 of them just now graduating from OU. Got another one's going to be going into the OU nursing program in the spring. And then the middle daughter is actually bringing the boyfriend home to meet us this afternoon, so that's exciting. So a lot of things like that. So yeah, it's we from empty nesting to wow, we've got 3 teenage daughters overnight.
Well, that'll teach you some lessons in patience and listening, won't it?
It does. It does. It does.
It does. So when, usually when people are watching this at home, I know I watch inspiring stories all the time, and I often go, gosh, I'd love to do something like that. But, I always have these self-imposed challenges that I put in the path of me and that goal. What would you tell somebody at home who's watching this and is inspired to do something like this, but doesn't know quite where to start?
Well, obviously, you don't have to make it a thing, where you've got, a social media presence, that kind of thing. That part's been amazing to me too. I've got a little over 850 Facebook followers and about 500 on Instagram. So that's not what I suggest. What I suggest to people is just that little small step of just making a difference. Maybe you see somebody sitting alone in the coffee shop, in the bar, or in a restaurant, wherever it is. And if it feels appropriate to you, just say, hello, how are you? And sometimes they'll just say fine, and you can tell that conversation's not going to go any further than that. And other times they'll say, well, I'm fine, how are you? What's going on? Well, there's your opportunity. Just have a conversation. You may not know that person. They may be totally different than you. They may smell totally different than you. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You make the effort to say hello sometimes, and it will amaze you what you can do to start a conversation.
Absolutely. Well, guys,
That's important today is I want to throw this in. I think
Yep.
the important of that is, especially in light of what we've got going on, whether it's pandemic, the racial tensions, whatever, but just communicating with people face to face. Sometimes you have to do it this way, but I think face to face, talking to one another about things, it's where things happen. It doesn't happen on social media. That's just arguing and whatever. But when you have to look somebody in the eye and discuss an idea, that's what makes the difference.
You're absolutely right. I appreciate you adding that little bit because, social media is a great tool and we certainly are using it to tell these stories, but it is that hard work that we do behind the scenes to make people feel comfortable and feel heard and seen. And that's really important. And so everybody watching at home, I'm glad you get an opportunity to meet my friend Jamie, and we're so happy to support his project. And I'll put all the links in the closing slides so you guys can check it out on Instagram and Facebook if you're so interested. But Jamie, thanks for joining me this morning and taking some time out of your day to really just share all the good work that you're doing and the benefits of being kind. I think that there are many, and we could all be a little kinder. Everybody, until we can see you back in the ballpark, I hope you have a great day.